Hello and welcome to Geek on My Sleeve. I am Peter and I'm here with my co host Carl, and we are going to be doing our first of our 52 book challenge, which you can find on Goodreads. We are Legion, we are Bobiverse Book 1, yet again a spoiler free book review. And we'll go to Carl for reading the Goodreads.
So yeah, the Goodreads for We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis E. Taylor. Bob Johansson has just sold his software company and is looking forward to a life of leisure. There are places to go, books to read, and movies to watch. So it's a little unfair when he gets himself killed crossing the street. Bob wakes up a century later to find that corpuscles have been declared to be without rights, and he is now the property of the state. He has been uploaded into computer hardware and is slated to be the controlling AI in an interstellar probe looking for habitable planets. The stakes are high, no less than first claim to entire worlds. If he declines the honor, he'll be switched off and they'll try again with someone else. If he accepts, he becomes a primary target. There are at least three other countries trying to get their own probes launched first, and they play dirty. The safest place for Bob is in space, heading away from Earth at top speed, or so he thinks, because the universe is full of nasties, and trespassers make them mad. Very mad.
Alrighty. And so if that sounds like anything you'd be interested in, okay, check out the book. Go on further as to why we enjoyed it and why we think you should check out the book. As far as length of the book, if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's 383 pages. We use a lot of Audible. If you're going to do it the Audible way, it's 9 hours, 56 minutes. If you get your hands on a paperback copy, it's 308 pages. Just kind of, it's fairly short, at least as far as what we do, however that fits your lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good book, but it's definitely on the shorter side if you're into epic fantasy or sci-fi. I know it certainly seemed to end rather quickly for me. It was over before I realized it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that annoyed me a little bit with the writing style is it just ended abruptly, but the second one picks up in the same vein, like picks up at the same spot, so it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
But I'm so used to all my TV shows and everything else, for example with Dragon Ball, where they're like, tune in next time to see if Goku defeats this guy. And
Right.
there was none of that. It was like la 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 la, blank screen, done.
No real wrapping up. They just yeah, close
But
the curtains on you.
yeah, it continues nicely. As far as the scaling, it is really good. Like, it doesn't have a whole lot of initial world building because,
Hmm.
like it was saying in the Goodreads, it just starts off as a normal day, average Joe, you know, doing his thing, and then it ends up in space, later on as an AI. Like, that's a bit of scaling.
Right. They do a good job about it though, because like you said, it starts out in the current age, and then, they do the time hop after he dies, and they kind of take you through it. They introduce you to the world before they just throw you in space. It continues to pick up speed, right? The scaling.
Yeah, yeah. The character development is a little weird, but it's a fun twist because for me, I enjoy kind of like RPG-esque things where you can
Hmm.
like clearly see the progression and the advancement. And for
Stat
this,
updates and
they
everything.
he does a beautiful job doing several things at once without spending a whole lot of time on it because you're here, and due to space travel and the time and the distance and blah, now you're here, this is what we're doing over here. Oh well, while we're over here and you're waiting for this other thing to get done, this happened. So it jumps around a little bit, but it does well with the development and keeping the story moving along.
So the way they have the chapters set up too, it helps you keep track of that, right? Like at the beginning
Yeah,
of
it
the
does a little
chapter.
intro blurb like,
hmm
hey, this is who, this is
hmm
where.
Well, yeah, it jumps around, but you're still able to follow it, which is nice.
Yeah. Side note, foreshadowing. It's weird because speaking of like getting into the beginning of a chapter and how they say, oh, we're here with so and so, it then does little blurbs that are relevant, but you don't know where it's going to be relevant. It kind
Yeah.
of like stuff he felt like he should have put in the beginning of the book, but he didn't want to just do a data dump all at the beginning. So he
hmm
continues the story with a little bit of flavor of, potential in this. It's weird because it doesn't feel exactly like the story, but it feels like developmental things that could happen in the story. It was different. I didn't appreciate it at first, but going through it again, I really appreciated it.
Yeah. It's a good book though. It has to be if we've read it as many times as we've
Yeah.
had. Dennis did a really good job with the foreshadowing, like how it set up the first couple of chapters and then kind of just, pulls from that a little bit. So tell me a little bit about the audiobook. Like, what do you feel is different or you enjoyed about the audiobook formatting?
So, as far as the audiobook goes, it wasn't like way up there as epic,
hmm
but it was enjoyable. I
hmm
think a lot of the problem comes from the character development, where, without going into too much detail, there wasn't a whole lot of variety in characters, so you didn't need a whole lot of different voices.
Right.
It was more like subjective, like, oh, talk about this guy or talk about this place. So you didn't
hmm
need a voice for it because it was all kind of an internal monologue or internal narration. It did really
hmm
well between, like, hey, these are thoughts in my head and this is how I feel about it, to, the conversation piece, like I'm interacting with this other person. There
hmm
weren't any cool, like, epic level up sounds, but that's a different genre. So,
It's hard not to be a little bit critical after you've heard some really incredible audible performances where, it's just everything from, a full cast of voice actors, incredible sound effects, background music, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's Ray Porter, who did the voice acting on Audible. It was a good performance.
though, one thing that I really enjoyed about the writing style is he did a lot of things very simplistically that opened up several avenues. For example, they tell you that he's a software developer. So
Mm,
since he has a understanding of the computer space and how electronics and technology works, it doesn't have to go into a lot of like, oh, well, this is this and this is that. It's like, this is what I do. So he had a lot of really great, like, because I did this one thing, I don't have to go into detail about explaining more.
I feel that's really important, especially for sci-fi and the fantasy genre. As long as you get enough of the basic rules down, you could do a bit of hand waving and be like, oh, magic. But with sci-fi, it's important to make it plausible, right? Like the believability. And this book does a good job at setting it up enough that way it's not just hand waving. You don't get a whole lot of the science or the details behind it, but that's not this type of book, right? It's very much focused on the characters progressing the storyline. It doesn't get into the whole techno babble behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
So. It's good.
So, final thoughts here, whether or not we would want to do our in-depth, nitty-gritty, detailed geek out session on it. As far as I'd be concerned, yes, I really enjoyed it. I'm having a hard time not spoiling this for you now, and there's so many good feels about it.
Hmm.
I would like to know other people's opinion on the matter, but that I'd like to express why I enjoyed it in more detail. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I definitely think this book is worthy of doing a geek out stream on. It is definitely up there as one of my favorite sci-fi books. For what it does very well. It's definitely up there on the most listened to. So I'm all for doing a geek out stream. For those of you who want to join us,
We will have all of the information on geekonmysleeve.com so that you can go to the Goodreads so that you can find the book for if you want a copy of yourself so that you can read it, listen to it, view it. And then when we do our stream, because you're following us and checking out geekonmysleeve.com, link in the descriptions below.
link in the descriptions below. Please
Uh,
like and subscribe.
and click the bell notification and turn it on for all of them.